where I see myself in the next few years is basically being like international type of artist. I don't really just stick to hip hop, rap. I like the pop scene. I like all types of music. As long as it has a positive, outlook. My music is basically, it's full of energy. I know a lot of these songs you hear on the radio and these artists, they're kind of it almost has a negative undertone. I hate to say it, but it's like money, drugs, and killing people. It's understandable. I've been there before, But at the end of the day, if you're a grown man over 30 years old or whatnot, and you're still talking about doing drugs and killing people and smashing this and smashing that, then yeah, you got problems, man. I don't care what society says. That's what God taught me. And being a man, being a man is way different, man. It's really love, joy, peace. That's what the Bible taught me. And that's basically what I try to, do in my music. But if you hear my music, sometimes I'm yelling, I'm like, but it's just the Holy Spirit from God, like inside of me, man. When you look at a real man and you listen to this, like it's like a warrior spirit. And I might add another question to this. But yeah, it's almost like, if you listen to Kevin Gates, he's a really good artist and he has a lot of passion behind what he says, and he's actually he's an awoke dude, but he's missing something like to me, you know what I mean? Like he goes, what's that song? He's like, hurt people. I'm gonna destroy it in the inside. It seems like to me, he goes to his psychiatrist and gets information, or he gets ideas from his psychologist. But he's aggressive on his beats, and I like that. I like that about Kevin Gates. And there's plenty of artists out there that I'm like, dang, they got real talent. But like I said before, man, if it was up to me, like I wouldn't even be making music, I'll probably just keep. If God never intervened with my life, I'll be in the Matrix still, But to me, so like in the next few years, yeah, I see myself, like I said, being an international type of dude. America's cool and all, but it's very brainwashed, if you can say. There's a small crowd, for the music that I make. Like I said, it just sounds, when you're too different, you're going to have to come at the game a different way. I don't know if I should add another question in here, but let me think real quick, guys. I hope you're enjoying the interview so far. It's just me, myself, and I. My first interview. I bet that sounded kind of weird. But yeah, water is a drug. No. Water is life, man. Like Jesus said, I'm the bread and I'm the life, the truth, the way. No man comes to the Father. But yeah, so that's my musical journey. I guess the summary of it is, just keep on grinding. If you're an artist, that's what I've been doing. I sacrificed. I lost a spouse, not to death or anything, but a lot of people left me, because when I first started doing this, like I said, I sacrificed everything that I known, and it's because God, and this was 10 years ago, tell you the truth. I say 22, 23 years old. I'm actually 34 now, so it's been a little bit over 10 years. So these are some of the things that I talk about, is like losing this and losing that. I'm not going to say every artist has to do that, but if you're following God, he's not going to give you the easy way. The easy way comes from Satan. And Satan, he'll give you something and he's going to want it all back some way or somehow. But when God gives you something, it's pretty much for eternity. It's forever. You'll never forget the memories. I remember many days I had to make music in my car when I was young. I was living with my parents and, they didn't agree or things like that. So I left and I went to a Walmart parking lot, and it was the middle of the summer, and I live in South Texas, and it was hot. So I had to crack the windows just a little, and mosquitoes would just come in and tear me up, So, these are just some of the things. It's not fun, but this is where faith, if you read the Bible, man, you'll hear plenty of stories of faith, how people had to do this and do that. God will make you do things in order to bless you. So a lot of people don't understand that, and that's fine. I'm willing to do it because I've seen miracles one after another. But yeah, that concludes everything. And the last thing is, where can we find your music? So basically, I'm with this thing called DistroKid, and they distribute my music to like all these, I guess, music streaming sites. They got like Spotify, Amazon Music, iTunes, SoundCloud. I started my own little thing. It's called sterlizer.bandcamp.com. So not only can you stream my music, you can also download it to your phone digitally. And it's only $3 for the whole. Well, I got a mixtape called the Decade mixtape, because it took me 10 years to perfect making beats, engineering, vocals, and everything. It took a long time, like I said, and this is, but the thing is though, what's 10 years of your life, or what's 15 years of your life compared to like, enjoying the rest of it. So when we got to look at things like that, man. We can't just be like, oh, it's taking so long. It's like, but when it finally does happen, which it should, when you have faith and God is carrying you through this process, it should. But if you're doing it on your own, then you're kind of like, you don't know what's going to happen. But when you have God, it's called faith, and you know that he works on his own time, and if you see yourself improving with your music, then that's a good sign. If you see yourself in the same, like you can't get past a certain point, then yeah, it's gonna be tough. But when you see yourself improving, and you're getting feedback, yeah, it's pretty good, this and that, and people start buying your stuff or wanting to know where to find your stuff, then yeah, you're improving in life. And I would have never known this if I didn't start my own trucking business. Like I drive 18-wheelers and things like that. And the Lord sat me down, said, hey, I want you to start your own business. I started it up and everything, had it for about a half a year. And then that's when he set me back down. And he's like, hey, it's time. Everything you learn from that business, how to get your whatever, your freaking... I don't know, I paid $300 for my own business name. There was a lot, you know what I mean? And I really enjoyed it. I carried my weight, and he told me to let it go, and I let it go. And he's like, hey, this music might be, that's what I'm thinking in the back of my head. He's like, hey, it's time. And I'm like, hell yeah, man, it's about time. I've been grinding. Even when I was driving 18-wheelers, I would set my laptop up and my microphone. I'll drive like 10 hours a day. And then I'll park, take a shower, and then I come back to the truck, get something to eat, and then I start, making the beat and rapping. Like, it's just something I can't get away from. But yeah, you can find my music all over the place. I'll go by Sterlizer, Sterlizer. There's another person with my name, but he has like, his is spelled Sterlizer. I don't have that I. It's just Sterlizer. So yeah, that's where it all started, man. That's what got me into music. Music has changed my life. What I enjoyed the most about it, the negativity in music and things. And yeah, you got to hear first, man. I'm just sitting here on this big blue couch. I'm Sterlizer. Thank y'all for listening. If you are listening, I might keep on rambling on for a couple minutes, because I don't ever like to stay in the box. If you listen to my music, you would hear the uniqueness from it. But yeah, it might also help you. But yeah, let's just chop it up for a little bit, man. If you're an artist out there, hey, put God first, man. Some people are like, nah, man, you put God. People don't want to listen to godly music. And yeah, people don't want to listen to gospel music. But at the same time, you can still put God first in your life, and he'll give you ideas. I got over maybe 1,000 songs, and I've never jumped on another person's beat. I remember buying my first laptop, I downloaded a freaking thing, Audacity. So I use Fruity Loops for, my main DAW. But when I first started off, it was I used Fruity Loops and Audacity to record my vocals. But yeah, I never jumped on another person's beat. I always like, I'm an artist. Like I said before this, I would paint pictures. I look at making music like painting a picture. You don't ask somebody, hey, do you think you can help me like paint this picture? It's like, nah, this is your self-expression. Like when you paint a picture, you get the canvas, you outline, you draw with the pencil, whatever you want to paint, and then you start filling it in with paint. You fill it up until it's fulfilled in your own opinion. And I see the same thing with music. Start off with the beat, lay it down, you know what I mean, every instrument by instrument, and then I put my vocals, which I could say that, you know, the beat is like the pencil, the outline, and then when I put my vocals on it, that's when I'm painting it, and it's coming to life. You know, I always had that aspect, only because I was a painter in my previous, you know, whatever. So yeah, you know, paint that with your vocals and it's complete. You know, if somebody else wants to jump on in the future, yeah, I'm more than willing to work. I've actually worked with other artists before, and they're very good artists. You know what I mean? But for me, I just haven't jumped on nobody else's beat. I thought about it. I was like, man, let me take the easy way, because making these beats took me the longest. I've always tried to get that energy, you know, when I hear beats, I'm like, man, that thing's groovy. And I would always miss, they call it swing and syncopation, you know, and I started using that, or I started using the metronome instead of just, you know, not using it. So that's what actually enhanced my music just a lot, was using a measurement, the metronome. So now my beats are hitting the way I want them to, because I remember listening to my stuff, I'm like, why isn't it hitting? Like I needed to come out my head until this, and it would never, you know, come out the way I wanted it to, is because I didn't have that timing right. So yeah, music isn't just, you know, fun and games, man. It gets very technical. Even with rapping, you have to pick your flow. You got to pick the tone of your voice. You know what I mean? Like I could rap a whole verse like with like just taking maybe one breath. And that's something I had to learn, is breath control, you know. Like I'm ripping it, all the music you hear, like I might take one breath during that whole verse, and it can be a gift and a curse, you know, because you have to make sure all of your syllables and all of your words are clear. But yeah, breath control. Just listen to some of my music. You can hear how it's like, you know, that's just my style. You know, I have a style of almost like a run on. My teacher used to tell me when I was in school, hey, you need to put a comma right there. You need to put a comma or a period, because I will always have run on sentences. And I kind of do the same thing with my music. I do put commas here and there, but you know, my flow isn't fast like Eminem. It's just like I'm just direct. You know what I mean? I don't have time to make it sound fancy or anything really. You know, it's just like, it's direct and in your face. And I like to keep that energy. I like to keep my hooks. I like to keep my verses short. So when that hook comes back on, it keeps that same energy. So my style, I can't explain my whole style in a nutshell. That's just what I do as an artist. And it's very fun to me, because like I told you before, like God gives me these ideas and I get to listen back to it after it's all said and done. It takes me about maybe 7 hours to complete the beat. The vocals and mix and mastering takes about 7 hours. But when I finally get done, you know, I download it from my computer, put it on my phone, I put my headphones on, I'll take a shower, because, you know, you're sweating and, you know, you're rapping and you're writing these lyrics, and you know what I mean? And these lyrics don't come easy, bro. Like a lot of people need to appreciate artists that have good lyrics, because, you know, oh man, I spend a lot. It probably takes me about maybe an hour to make a good beat, and then the next 5 hours is lyrics and laying it down, recording. Once I record, that's not easy either, because you might have your lyrics. You got your lyrics on your phone, you're spitting, oh shoot, you mess up, you got to do it again, oh mess up, do it again. So, you know, the recording, you know, there's a process, you know, the beat making, the lyric writing, and then the recording process, and then the final mastering, or the mixing and mastering. So it's all fun. It is work. And people that always say, get a job. This is a job. You know what I mean? Like, don't get discouraged out there, people. People telling you, get a job. Yeah, you can have a part-time job, but me, like the Lord blessed me, and I saved up money, and you can actually take time and focus on the craft that he's given you. So, you know, the Lord's telling me, cut it right now. I'm just talking too much. You know, we're at 30 minutes. You know, this is just me. You know, the Sterlizer, you can find my music on all platforms. You can support if you like. If you want to become a fan, I love fans. I never really had fans, so this is something new to me. Some people say I'm an inspiration and stuff, and that's cool, but all glory goes to Jesus Christ, you know what I mean, the Most High God. So, you know, he's the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, man. They're real. This music is just temporary, you know what I mean? You know, eternity's waiting, guys. But yeah, find your boy, Sterlizer.com, and get with it or get lost. Peace.